The B-29 Superfortress, which was responsible for dropping the nuclear bomb on Japan, had a fatal design defect that resulted in catastrophic breakdowns practically every day of its 14-month operation. Despite being advertised as the world's best and most advanced bomber, 267 of the 414 B-29s destroyed in the bombing were owing to this flaw. Despite its reputation as the world's most advanced bomber, the Superfortress's design flaw remained undiscovered. A plane called Ramp Tramp. Captain Howard was on his way home after a successful bombing raid over Japan on July 29, 1944. The B-29 Superfortress suffered unexpected challenges during the trip, including losing airspeed and altitude, electrical problems, and the inability to operate the radio. Captain Howard put the plane in a 10-degree dip to maintain velocity while inspecting it for the damage. The crew and the captain detected no problems after a thorough test and boosted the thrust to 100%. The plane, however, continued to tilt, and it felt as though a force was pulling it away. Captain Howard realized the plane would not return home and was forced to choose between surrendering to the Royal Japanese Army and burning the plane. Captain Howard directed his flight crew to destroy the flight manuals and codebooks in order to prevent the adversary from obtaining them. Towards the Soviet air base. Captain Howard recognized that landing at a nearby Soviet airstrip in Primorsky Krai rather than a Japanese base was preferable. Because the ramp tramp was malfunctioning and losing altitude, it was critical to land fast. The Soviet Union replied by intercepting the plane with 8 fighter planes from their air force. Because Russian pilots could not comprehend his motions, Captain Howard had to explain his objectives by gestures. The aircraft then dove towards the Russian airfield, escorting it to Vladivostok. The crew of the ramp tramp was imprisoned, and any appeal for negotiations from the United States were rejected. The Soviets had long coveted the newest B-29 Superfortress to replace their aging fleet of long-range bombers. 3 B-29 Superfortresses and their crews would crash over Soviet territory, and 4 crews totaling more than 40 men would perish in a similar manner. Over the next few months, the US maintained pressure on Joseph Stalin. Tupolev Tu-4, the birth of a Soviet bomber. However, it was clear that the Russians had no intention of returning anything, because it would take Russia more than 5 years to create their own long-range bomber. Joseph Stalin decided to reverse engineer the American B-29 Superfortress from bolt to bolt, resulting in the creation of Tupolev Tu-4 Russian super bomber. After all, this was the world's greatest and most sophisticated bomber. The B-29 was larger, quicker, and more heavily armed, and could carry a larger payload than its predecessor, the B-17 Flying Fortress. It had a design issue that limited its combat success. While extensively testing the seized B-29 Superfortress, the Soviets uncovered an unexpected finding: a hidden fatal flaw. The engine cowl flaps, or the little doors that open and close, help to keep the engine cool. They were poorly thought out. They created so much drag on the B-29 that it was unable to take off fully deployed. If the B-29's cowl flaps were fully deployed while in flight, it would slow to a crawl, virtually resulting in a total storm. The crews of the bombers were used to flying with the cowl flaps closed or slightly opened, as the case with the most planes, but this was not an option with the B-29 Superfortress. Around 50 engines overheated on the right side, necessitating the complete opening of the cowl flaps to cool them down. According to Russian experiments, open cowl flaps on a working engine are identical to engine failures with closed flaps. Every B-29 also had an electrical failure, pad dysfunction, and port-side engine cowl flaps. These difficulties greatly reduced lift and made staying aloft difficult. Poor cowl flaps design caused persistent overheating and engine ride difficulties in 267 of the 441 B-29s lost over Japan. Regardless, the B-29 Superfortress remains the first bomber in history to launch a nuclear bomb over enemy territory. Thank you so much for watching this video. To watch the video on the fatal flaws of the B-32 Dominator, click this link. See you guys in the next video.